trying not to do this right by the microphone because it might be a little too much for Janice's ears, right? This is my Tibetan
I
singing
really
bowl.
can't hear it that well. I hear it
You
now.
Yeah, you can get it really get that frequency going there like that. It's pretty cool. What's up, everybody? I'm back on Sundays. Music Therapy Laz here with my co-hostess with the mostest, as we like to say, right, Janice? Absolutely.
Hi, people.
It's been a little while since we've had you on the show, right?
I know.
On the Sunday show.
It's
And
daylight savings time here, but it's not in the Netherlands. So
right?
everything could be pushed back an hour.
Yeah.
So for the 9 hours
man.
difference, I'm the culprit.
It's all your fault,
It's
Janice.
regular time on the air, but it's now
It's all your fault. The daylight savings time. We're going to blame it on Janice. I'll use these a little bit today, just for fun. Normally, I don't use these on the show. Hope my voice is coming across clear. I got the blue microphone, white snowball mic here. I call it my BB.8, or is it BB.5? I forget. My memory's starting to get worse as I get older. This is no good. I accidentally put the sausages that I made yesterday for lunch or something, like I sliced them up and fried them, and I put them where the bread is instead of inside the fridge where I normally put it. And I was looking for it this morning. I'm like, good thing these are like, it was like cured, already cured kind of sausages. So
they say that the big indicator is that when you put things that don't belong in the refrigerator.
Well, I used to do that even when I was younger, so but might have been because of some other substances that I was partaking in that might have made my memory not so good. But yeah, today's show, we'll say hi to everyone in the chat in a minute. We'll let people roll on in. We've got people rolling in slowly here. Charles 75N's show, chatting with Charles, was on this morning. He had a great show this morning. I listened to about half of it as I was prepping for my show and getting things set up and ready, putting the thumbnail together, all these little things you got to do, and I always do like hours of research, you guys, because I don't like to talk about these kind of topics that are kind of more heady, more, information based. It's not like, the subjective tone searching or the perfectionism, we're going to talk about that, the search for tone and all that. That's very subjective stuff. Whereas here, this is more kind of not as much. We talk about subjective realities and subjective things in our realities as well. But on the Music is Therapy show, we talk about music, therapy, uses of music, and other things revolving around music that I guess psychiatry, psychology, philosophy, whatever. We can talk about all different kinds of things here. And feel free to send me some ideas, if you guys want to leave in the comments after the show. Those are really appreciated because that always helps the algorithm of YouTube push my show more. So I'm trying to get this show to really take off. So if you guys can help out with, leave some silly comment, doesn't matter what it is. Hey, great show, Laz, or oh, Laz, you should have talked about something, or next week talk about this, or hey, I had this issue with perfectionism or whatnot, right? Because today's show is about perfectionism. Is it a blessing or is it a curse? And I would think for some of us, we would realize that it's probably, not the best thing in the world, right? It's sometimes can get in your way. And that's why I thought it'd be fun to talk about this today, partly because of my experience with it in life, and partly because I think it's something that is on the rise because of social media, people wanting to, be at a place that they feel they should be, everyone's trying to get a leg up and be better. And there's always books out about that kind of stuff, how to be better, how to be, it's a constant pressure. And I was listening to Steve Vai, an interview that he did with Steve Rosen years ago. And it came up in my feed, and I was listening to it yesterday while I was working on the window shade, another perfectionist issue of mine, the window shade that I was making and have completed for the window over here in the studio, because it's a single pane window. I need to sound deaden it better, so when we're jamming out and playing in here,
that's what I need.
Yeah, see, but don't do it the way I did it, because I made a mistake.
Right?
What's that?
I remember I think I was talking to you about it.
Oh, wow.
And I need that for my downstairs because my PA is down there and I got drums down there now. And my next door neighbor is pretty close. So
Yeah.
I need to have one of those things to soundproof my window.
Yeah, I'll give you some tips on how you can do that after the show, or we can do it during the show if you guys want a little bit. But we got Ron Gunner in the house as well. Congratulations on
Hello,
making it to the
everybody.
show.
Hi, Janice.
I told all of you guys, no pressure. If you can't make it, that's all right. I have, I can talk about this, over an hour, no problem. And then talk with the chat too. And we'll start getting into the chat here and saying hello and thanking those who have been so far subscribing and, of course, joining as members to the Music Therapy Laz channel, where I have these two shows. I have the Gear and Demo show, and then I sometimes do some live stuff. And I haven't done anything out and about very much lately. I used to do that more. I should get back to doing that, right? Like pop in on some music shops, the mom and pop music shops episodes I used to do. Those were fun. I was talking to Brent about this place called Broken Guitars that now is called Oakland Guitars, where he was at Skips in Sacramento, and somebody brought in his dad's equipment. I guess his dad passed away or something. They're going through some of his stuff, and he has like a 53 Gibson, not a Les Paul, but some big body jazz box, kind of a Gibson, and some other things he didn't know anything about, and they were talking about the pedals that he has, and they says, well, if you had a Klon pedal, he's like, well, what does it look like? It's like, it's this gold thing with red knobs, or sometimes they're silver, and he's like, oh, okay, come, I'll be right back. Goes to the car and brings a Klon in, so it's like, so Brent was over there. Yeah, those things are worth a lot of money, man. And he was telling me how it was kind of interesting how these like little shops will have these like little things. And I was telling him, yeah, at the Broken Guitars place one time, they were selling a Klon for $1,200, and I'm like, I bet you these will still keep going up. And I should have bought it, but I didn't.
Wow.
And that was like about 4 or 5 years ago. I should have bought it anyway. But at that time I wasn't.
Shoulda, woulda, coulda.
Right. Say again, Dan.
Shoulda, woulda, coulda.
Hey, Ron.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't know how long I'm going to be staying, but I want to, like last night, we were talking about my collapsed pickup.
Yeah.
We should do a show sometime and have me fix it. You guys.
That's a great idea.
That sounds good. On.
All right.
By
the way, you're sounding great, Ron. Your mic sounds fabulous.
Well, thanks to Bay Area Rich for this. So
did he send you one of those Shure SM50s, whatever they are?
Yeah, it's the SM7B.
7B. Okay.
Yeah.
And do you have a cloud lifter too?
I bought a
something similar.
It's hold on.
Sounds good.
This is a very old Radio Shack clone of the SM58.
Well, those are supposedly good mics. The SM58 are great.
Yeah, they are.
What I really like about the SM58 clone here is it has an on-off switch.
Oh, that's really nice to have.
And that's golden to me.
Right? Yeah. And by the way, you all, just so you know why I don't sound as good as Ron and Janice doesn't sound as good as Ron. First off, I think Janice, we were trying to figure out her mic settings or something was booming and whatnot. And I think it's just because she's listening to us not through headphones, because she got attacked by someone she was listening to, did something that blew her ears out when she had earbuds in. So she's very cautious about her ears now, and so she's using her desktop computer speakers or something like that, right? To
listen
hear.
to you.
Yeah, and because of that, you sound a little boomier.
Well, because
there's a little bit of a feedback thing going on.
I listen to it. You from is hooked up to my PA.
Yeah. Yeah, because it was even worse with that. So now at least we have less speakers going into the mic, because that's feeding into the mic and it's causing the boominess. And then you're in an open room there with a lot of reflective surfaces.
I want to get one of those shields.
That won't make a difference.
Because that'll be like a noise gate.
Not really.
No.
That's just for your P's and your S's. So when you pop, stop, it's like a.
Yeah, but I think it also stops the ground loop too.
No, it won't. Because that's an electronic field thing. So that's nothing to do with your actual sound from your mouth.
So I know when I walk away, I get the ground loop. and I know that my body is
Yeah.
making the noise gate.
Well, yeah, not really.
When
I read all about this
Preventing
stuff back in the day.
from happening because my body is actually as a shield.
Your body might be absorbing a little bit of the reflection, but yeah, really, this is But let's
for
get.
the
Go ahead, Ron.
for the last 2
Go ahead.
weeks, I've been having interference with the microphone.
Well, there's that, but it's electromagnetic interference that's in the air.
So I ended up Rich
Or frequency.
gifted me this
Mhm.
this Shure microphone
Yeah.
along with the beautiful custom Randy Rhoads strap right there.
Yeah, what a guy.
And then I had to this has the Rodecaster Pro has the phantom power in it, but you still needed, so I ended up getting one of these.
Okay.
So it's just in line,
Right.
and
What
then
is that?
it's a
That's kind of like the cloud
decibel
lifter
booster.
thing.
Like
It's a
it's
booster.
like a booster. And then
Why
to
it's
get
called a cloud lifter is it's lifting up. It's almost kind of like a preamp of sorts. Right.
Yeah. And then I got a Shure A15 RF radio frequency filter, which is right
Okay.
here.
Yeah, that's probably really helping too. Yeah.
So I do have a new Mangata.
Sounds great.
I got a new cable coming, be here tomorrow,
Mhm.
and a Hum X that I can actually plug the Rodecaster
Okay.
into. So
I have
hopefully
one
get
of
rid
those.
yeah.
I have the Hum X over here somewhere. Well, actually, I have a different thing than the Hum X, but it's similar. But
You
that
know,
would be helpful too. And you are sounding, even though you sound really good, Ron, there is still a little bit of like right when you start your words, a little bit of popping and stuff like
Yeah.
that. For
I'm
you,
working on that.
yeah, for you, maybe being a little bit further away from the mic might help. And also, however you have it adjusted settings.
I don't have this kind of problems when I'm on OBS all the time.
No, that's just
OBS is
because,
perfect.
yeah, that's
This is
because
live studio is
StreamYard.
perfect.
It's a
What's
StreamYard
StreamYard,
thing.
I guess?
Yeah. Whenever you're streaming and you're doing multiple guests like we are, StreamYard is actually an OBS. It's a version of OBS that's just been streamlined or StreamYarded. So they basically made it for streaming, and they've done some, things in there, software-wise or whatever, to make it work for easily streaming to multiple people at once. But there are some issues, just like with YouTube, you have compression and all this. But we're getting into gear talk here. We're supposed to be talking about, even though here's the perfectionism thing. Yeah, exactly.
Perfectionism
See,
gear.
perfect example of our
Mark in Black, they're witnesses to my streams.
they know, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, Mark says it was clipping, but say something now, Ron, and just don't lean into it. Just relax.
Is that any better? Is that
much better? Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not hearing the same like pop and kind of pop that comes
well,
from
I don't have it, I still don't have it all set right.
Yeah.
Once I get everything done, so.
Yeah, I can still hear it, but it's all right. It's not that big of a deal. So, all right, you guys. So, what do you guys say we get into the topic?
I had to wait 4 minutes and 36 seconds to have my voice come in on that stream I did last time.
That's too much.
I did not have my microphone assigned to the platform. I used OBS, and then I used my Prism Live Studio to go to YouTube exclusively, but I did not reassign the microphone.
See, there's so many details. Well, let's get into the perfectionist topic, you guys, because we're 25 minutes into the hour, and I'll go long because we
perfectionism, isn't it?
Well,
sound.
It's part of it, right? So we're always trying to like the old tone chasing debate, right? And one of the reasons why I brought this topic up was, so let me go ahead and pull up this article. This was funny because this was in my feed this morning. I was like cracking up that this is actually, pops up perfect, Steve Vai, guitar.com, I think, magazine or something like that, one of these online magazines. Steve Vai. There goes AI trying to correct me again. Let's see. There was okay, so there's a featured article. Here we go. All right. Yeah, let me go ahead and share this to you guys, because this kind of got me rolling with this topic, even though this was first thing in the morning. I was already thinking about this topic yesterday. And it's kind of funny how, these things will kind of manifest when you're thinking about something like.
Tell me not everything's listening to you.
Yeah, right. Well, there's no way they wrote this article for me. You know what I mean? That can't be possible. But it couldn't be more perfect than right now. So here he goes. I went through all these amplifiers and I could never figure out why I didn't sound good. Steve Vai on crafting the perfect tone. Okay, so there we go. There's our topic, right? He goes right into talking about this, but let me go and remove that for now. Um, the topic of perfectionism, and I think we all, as human beings in the modern era, and when I say modern era, is like we're not living, as hunter-gatherers out there in the forest or somewhere where our main concern of the day is safety from being eaten by other bigger predators or getting food so we don't starve and having shelter, right? And for the most part, that kept most people very busy. You didn't have time to be concerned about like these psychoanalytical things and philosophies on life and whatnot until we started to create civilization, right? And then we have these different problems that come about through this type of life that we live in civilization. Here's Johnny Bean. Speaking of civilization, where is he?
Guess what?
You're in your studio room. You're sideways now. There you go.
What are you guys doing?
We're talking about. We just started the topic about perfectionism. Is it a curse? Is it a curse, Johnny, or is it a blessing? What would you say?
Like this guitar? You mean?
It's perfect now that I took the plastic off.
Is it perfect? Or does it need a decal on it?
No decal needed. I'd say.
There we go. Is that perfection, Janice?
That's perfection. Is a
what if
chain.
I just put it right here?
There you go.
Hey, Johnny.
Just stick it on top of the headstock, so it's like a a tuner cover.
Hey,
look at that! She got one. Look at legato.
There you go.
How much are those? Hey, Dan Gorman.
Here's a box.
Say hi to the chat. Let's say hi to the chat, you guys.
My acoustic make the acoustic sound great.
Oh, that's awesome, Janice.
Very cool. Yeah, let's say hi to the chat real quick because we haven't done that yet. So Johnny was the first one in. Look at that, with his little cowboy hat. Janice Lala next. Charles 75N had oh my God, see Gear Junkie 35, I think, on his show. So Gear Junkie was talking about his epiphany after getting surgery to I guess deal with the 95% blockage that could have caused a major problem, right? He got that taken care of. They might have even used the device that my dad helped invent. He was in the R&D department working with the company called DVI that worked with Stanford doctors that made the original roto-rooters for your arteries and into your heart and all that kind of stuff, the angioplasty things. So I have some of his devices, and my dad's probably saved millions of people's lives of people. Ryan Hall, what's up? Wayne McConnell, what's happening? We've got Ryan is going to send me a sword, right? Someday. No pressure, dude. But he was sending me a message earlier. Hey, are you going to do my show? Are you going to do your show? And hey, I'll send you the swords and the stuff and blah, blah, blah. Because I sent him a Telecaster. And he sent me some money and I said, and send me some stuff that you don't need, and you don't have to spend more money. And just, not that I need a sword, but I would like to have it. The one that he's going to send me. I'll show you guys when I get it. It's going to be cool. What's up, Scott Hawk? And we got Greasy Monkey also here saying morning to all and to some of his friends in the chat. And then, of course, Mark's Gas Station, who was also in that show. People rating from over there, right? James G, what's up, dude? Dennis Ellis, what's up, Dennis Ellis? Saying hi to Laz, JR, Ron, and all. I don't know what GTSY means. Maybe
it means good to see you.
Oh, okay, good to see you. See, there you go. Thank you, Johnny.
All right.
NTSY. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
Yeah.
Johnny, you got to
go? See you next Thursday. Abbreviate that.
Yeah, see you next Thursday, or be right back. BRB, right?
All right. Hello Kitty and I have to leave, but we just want to say thank you. And this guitar is almost perfection. It's just buzzing right here. So I got to fix that.
Close.
There you go. See, GBD guy knows. GBD guy knows.
Yeah. GBD guy
knows. He knows. All right.
Searching for tone. Also, you're right on, Johnny. Thanks for popping in.
I'll see you guys later.
Yeah.
Bye.
All right, Johnny Bean. Right on. Searching for tone. Thanks for gifting a bunch of people some memberships. That was very nice of Searching for Tone. What's up? And who else is here? I think we got Dan Gorman. I think I said hi to Ian's Guitar Shack. What's up, dude? And we're almost at the bottom. GBD guy. And then Peggy Bouchard. Am I saying it right, or is it Bouchard? Bouchard or Bouchard? Is it like Bayou kind of Bouchard?
You're doing, Peggy.
That's how I want to say it. Bouchard. Anyway. So yeah, perfectionism. So let me ask the panel here. First off, has it ever been something that was a problem for you? Like, in other words, has it stopped you from doing things? Has it gotten in your way? Some of the symptoms. I can go over some of that, but tell me a little bit about your experience with it. Oops. Accidentally hit that button.
Because when I go to an open mic, I know exactly what I'm doing. I know how perfect a song should be. And it frustrates me when my accompaniment does not meet my expectations.
Yeah. And then what does that do to you? Does it stress you?
Obviously be so obvious that the song's about to end. And I don't know whether they recognize it because of the cues that you have, like when you're about to end a song, like when you have like a blues song, when you do your last three the volume changes, that shows that you're going to the crescendo and you're lowering it, because that's the end of it. That's where it ends. And people don't recognize that. They need to know the theories.
Right. So what does that do to you? So when you're at a performance like that and you're trying to perform, you're trying to do your best, right?
Right.
And then somebody else isn't doing it. So what does that do to you? How does it make you feel? Like, what happens to you?
Makes you feel like I'm a failure.
Yeah.
I haven't communicated enough.
So you internalize it. So you think it's your fault when they haven't practiced.
It's right. Their problem.
It's their fault, but you blame yourself. No, I'm kidding. So there's a lot of interesting things to unpack there. But obviously, does that affect your performance itself? Does it stress you out and it makes you feel not happy? Because the whole point that you're out there to make music and stuff is for what?
Well, when I have a song that I know it's like 3 minutes and 20 seconds long, and I just finished it, and it's gone. It should be gone by now, and they're continuing on for like 5 minutes more.
Like a jam.
They still will do their part, but their part has already been done. And it frustrates me. And I try to end the song a different way. Let me end it now. Let me see if I can end it now. And they're not really paying attention.
You're ready to pull like a Kurt Cobain and just throw the guitar down on the ground and end the song, right?
Yeah.
Right? That's the way to end it. Oh my God. Well, let's talk. Okay, what about you, Ron? What about you, Ron? You want to give us a little tidbit of
Well, yeah. Publishing or producing your own music will drive you nuts. That's why you do need someone to come in and say, okay, stop.
Right.
Okay, so that's one thing. But getting into like the painting of guitars, I can't tell you how many times I've turned around and sanded and did the same thing 6, 7, 8 times, trying to get it perfect.
Right.
So
especially if you don't have the perfect environment for painting, especially guitars, the expectation, and we'll go into this because this is the crux of it all. We have at least a definition in our mind of what the expectation is of the others or even ourselves, right? Which is sometimes blamed on others. But there's this expectation that causes our obsessive behavior when it comes to needing it to be perfect, right?
Well, how I consider it done is no flaw anywhere on the paint and gloss perfect everywhere.
Right.
And another thing I can't hack, and it's because of a guitar player we had in the band first with me. The way he played like this. Instead of just strumming straight down, he did a circular, and he would knock his I don't care what Floyd Rose it was, he would knock it out of tune. He would retune it, and by the time the next song was over, he's out of tune again to the point where he'd be like, "It's close enough."
And it's because
I can't hack a guitar out of tune, and I'm to the point now. I'm 60. I'm going to be 60 in a couple weeks.
You just won't do it.
Yeah, if you're out of tune, I'm not going to play guitar with you. Sorry.
So let me ask you this.
I hate this. Oh, it's close enough, or that's good enough. No, take the other 5 seconds and finish it, for God's sake. I just can't. Out of tune guitars drive me nuts, and it's all because I'm not going to say his last name, but his first name was Mike. It's like, we even bought him. We bought him a George Lynch ESP, which they had made 4 for George, and George gave him let him. ESP said, "Well, George, it's going to be 6 months or whatever for this guy's." George already had some. He said, "So just let him have one of mine." So he actually got one that was made for George Lynch and still knocked it out of tune. Laz, you're froze, or I'm froze, or something. Is that Laz? Janice, I see you moving.
Yes, I guess he is frozen.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he's froze.
So yeah, but if the thing about ending the song, like ending it on the root, like you go right down near the root, and they're not even on the root, and they just keep rambling on up. But you should be rambling on down. It's stopping.
I know it's crazy, but yeah, but out of tune guitars just drive me freaking nuts. And
maybe they are on the root, but they're so out of tune you don't even know it.
And it's all because of that guy that was in the band with he just, and it got to the point where he would knock it out so bad he would just refuse to tune it. Don't worry about it. I'm like, what do you mean don't worry about it? So I would have the sound guy I'd motion to the sound guy, kill his sound. If he's not going to fix it. If he's not going to tune it, they're not going to hear it. Yeah. Yeah, we had signals worked out. It was like, if you saw me do something, it was like he knew to cut Mike's guitar amp, which they could do because he was mic'd. Mine was, I just played loud. So, but yeah, it is a perfection thing. I mean, it's not hard to tune it. We tried everything. We even put we tuned his tremolo, and then put black tape over the knobs so he couldn't hit. Tried duct tape. He just played like this instead of straight down. And as he went like that, he was constantly turning the dials. It was like, damn, either go without a guitar that doesn't have a tremolo or play differently.
You say that. Or just get a different guitar that has the controls in a different position.
Yeah, and he it got to the point where we ended up replacing him, and that was actually the best thing that happened. Okay. All right, Laz is rebooting his computer. He'll be back. So yeah, it's just perfection. I can understand it. And I can also see where, like I said, like the paint jobs. I mean, there's been times the paint job is absolutely perfect. I'll look at it, everything, and then all of a sudden, one certain way I turn it, something doesn't look right. And 99.99% of the people would never even notice it. But I did. So I'll sand the whole thing down and redo it again. That's just, I've always been that way. And yeah, you get the product and it's finished and it's right, but it may have cost me 4 or 5 times more to do it than originally because I got it that way. But
and you're using up the resources too.
Yeah. So
and they run out of paint.
Yeah. Well, when I did Johnny's little guitar, if you look at the first pictures of it after I cleared it, it looked like it was just dipped in water. It was so shiny. And then he had made the comment about Eddie not playing guitar, didn't worry about that. All his guitars looked worn. So I actually scratched the clear up and dulled it down. And it hurt me to do that.
Oh, yeah.
So, but that he made that comment about Eddie, so I did it that way. But and like this relic guitar stuff that I'm doing now for people, that bothers me. I do a beautiful paint job, then have to turn around and sand it and nick it all up. I mean, that you can ask my wife. It drives me nuts when I got to do that. Why you want a new paint job? Then why do you want it to look like it was dragged behind a truck for an hour? I don't. Well, whatever.
Like, why even bother, right?
Yeah.
It's just use it a lot. Instead of just making it a fake relic.
Well, the trick is to make it look well. When I do them, I mean, I've seen some where the people just mark it up, just wherever, doesn't matter. Just mark it up. I try to do it, and from playing guitar, where to do it right. So I try to do it so it looks like it is original.
Like Johnny, when he showed that guitar, I had asked if it was really relic or was it a decal?
Yeah. Well, then when I did that pink one, Laz has no internet right now. When I did that pink Telecaster, let's see if I can find a picture of it real quick. He fell in love with this, and I made it look like that was real relic. I mean, that was relicing I did, but I did it where it would naturally wear, from playing styles, and even like where the strap would wear on the right there when you put the strap on and on it. So then, and on top, it had that flaw in the original body. When I removed the original paint, that was like an epoxy they put in there to fill a knot hole. So he's like, "Well, don't cover that up. Leave that alone." So I did that. Can't really.
That's one of those Telecasters with the toggle switch on top.
Yeah. So I did where right where it would be in real life, and he's had. I think he paid. I forget what he paid for it. He paid whatever he paid for the guitar. It's a Fender. It's not a Squire. It's one of the player. But he's had it since I did that paint job. He had a guy offer him $3,000 for that guitar.
Wow.
Which was probably double what he's got in it between what he paid me to do it and what he paid for the guitar. But he won't sell it. So the guy's like, "Man, it's so." And the guy thought it was natural. He's like, "No, I had that done." And so that ended up getting more inquiries into what I do. So, it's just, but it can be with relic guitars, it's not as bad, other than you at least want it to relic where it should be. So the perfection thing comes in not only with just a regular clear paint job, but when you look at relicing, okay, so you mess it up, you got a great paint job, you mess it up, but mess it up correctly, because you'll see guys with like
the natural position.
They'll like take key rings and smack the keys all over the body. Well, unless you're going to throw the guitar off the roof of the house into a gravel alley, 70% of those marks will never ever be there. Yeah, so at least try to make it look authentic. If you're going to fake it, make it look like an authentic fake.
Braun or something like that. The guy's name was Braun.
Yeah, and so it's same way with music. I had the one song I've been trying to master it on the mixing for almost 2 years. It's like, I get it. When I get it, okay. And I was like, yeah, I got it. The next day I'll come back. No, wait a minute. And change that. And that's where you need someone to step in and say, get away. I'll do it. And who's not involved with actually creating it. And then they can get it. So, because I do have the song.
Time, the last time I did like knocking on heaven's door.
Yeah.
Somebody, the lead guitar player, decided he was going to be doing a harmony with me on the Knocking on Heaven's Door. So I figured he's going to be continuing that at the end. You know, like when like Guns N' Roses did the I stuff.
Yeah.
I was waiting for him to do that, and he didn't do it.
Yeah, see, that's when you need to get on there and say, hey, if you got to. Well, like I said, we were lucky when we had the band. Our manager, road manager, manager, had come out from the honor guard from the Army, so everything was organized, checked off, everything. So we had, even when we had a list of songs, we always had, if they wanted more, to hear more, it wasn't on a set list. He always had an extra 5 or so songs set. So we all knew if we go longer, these are the ones we're playing. It wasn't like, oh, well, what do you want to hear? I mean, everything, even when we loaded the truck, everything was numbered on a chart. So, and that fit perfect for me. That's that's just how I am. Like my tool bench, you know, everything's hung up, it's wiped off, put away.
Even like when you have a huddle before,
yeah,
you know, you get together and you say, okay, this is how it goes, and then you know, then we're going to end it like this. You can't even guarantee that they're going to remember.
I know.
Or even care, because they just want to.
You can't. One thing I've come to realize the hard way is you can't make people do the things you want them to do. And as cynical as it may sound, if you just don't count on anybody else, you won't be disappointed. I know that's bad, but you know, it's if you go up there thinking just do the best you can do. If they screw up, it's on them. They're the ones that look bad. You did your part. And that's basically how I'm looking at it now. I mean, I will help however I can, but again, when it comes right down to it, I can't make them do it. So you just got to learn to live with
it. You know, ditching all the instruments and just sing it to maracas.
Oh, okay. Well, Laz called Comcast, and there is an outage in his area, so he won't be back.
What are you going to do?
Well, I don't know. We can't end it. So I guess we just talk about whatever. But I mean, we did keep it about the perfection thing. So
that's right.
So yeah, you know, again, you know, you can't. You could show somebody how to do it. I mean, I tuned Mike's guitar to make sure it was in tune, and within one song, he's out of tune again. So I couldn't make him play differently. So the sad part for him was he was removed from the band because even though the rest of us are in tune and playing in time and right, you're out of tune, which sounds terrible. So bye. You know, we've had so many chances working with him. Yeah. But even if he would have he got to the point where he'd have to retune after every song. He just like, I ain't doing it. That's close enough. No, it's not. There is no such thing as close enough when it comes to tune. You're either in tune or you're not. It's black and white. And he's it's close enough, and he'd start playing like killy sound. You know, he could still hear his amp on stage, but he wasn't coming through the PA. So, oh well. Brian, no, Magic Man is not here. And anybody, I mean, if Johnny would even come back in, Laz is the only one who could end this. So, I don't know. So,
what if we both left the studio when we needed to?
The stream would still be live. You just see the black wall, that black background. We wouldn't be there. So, no, I mean, you know.
Hey, Brett.
And I'm not saying I'm perfect, because I am far from perfect, but I try to correct the mistake. And again, that's what gets me on the paint jobs, because it's even with cars. I've buddy of mine owns a body shop right across the street from me, about 2 streets over, and I've been there with him. And he's been painting cars just as long as I have, and I'll go over there and he's got one all done and everything. Then there's a run, like hanging a drape in the clear coat. And he's like, man, and he used to get like he would sand down the whole thing, but McGuire's now comes out with a sanding cube. It's like a sugar cube, different grits. And
right.
Then there's a way to take that down now, and you can buff it out. With the new clears today, it's very easy.
Yeah, I had an accident, and I decided not to get the full complete repair from a place. My friend has a but did body work, so he did it for me, and the clear coat in that spot is just not up to par, and you can really tell that it's a aftermarket job, and it wasn't done really well. So you could really tell that this is a hit job. It had been hit. So, I just really talk to him and say, can you clear coat it?
Well, I mean, this perfection thing, even getting into tools, there, I would have guys come to the garage and they would, hey, can I use your garage to do this? And I go out and they're like, oh, I'll clean up. Well, they did, but it wasn't like it was when they got there. So, when I was younger, we're talking 30 years ago, I'd go out in the garage at 3 or 4 in the morning and wipe the tools off, put them where they're supposed to go. I've just always been that. It's OCD. I've just always been that way. I have, I don't know. And when I borrow something from somebody, when they get it back, it's usually in better shape. It's
we had this thing at work where we had this thing called the footprint, where it was even drawn which tool you're supposed to be putting there. So,
Laz, you can join in from your cell phone. He's in the chat. You can jump in on your cell phone. Just send yourself the link.
Yeah,
or open the link up that you sent me.
5G, right?
Yeah.
Instead of the internet.
Yeah, it should be WhatsApp. So, yeah, I mean, it's a curse, and but when you're done and it is perfect, it's something you're proud of. It's like, oh, look at it, it's perfect. So sometimes you can. It goes back.
It's like me when I did Turn the Page on YouTube. And copyright claim on it. And it's just so fantastic that I really did it. Did you ever listen to it?
I started to, and then if I remember correctly, wait a minute.
I'm back.
There he is.
Go ahead and finish your conversation. I was kind of listening.
When you started listening to it?
No, go ahead and finish your conversation.
We lost our power. I was watching that during the storm.
Okay. I lost internet, and I'm like going, what's going on? And I went out to I went out to the TV, and because I have to do because we've been having these issues here lately because we had a lot of high winds and a lot of rain, like not a heavy rain, but high winds here too. The high winds thing is a real problem in California, apparently, and that can cause problems. And sometimes they're working on stuff and they shut stuff off for a minute or whatever. I don't know what the deal is. So I called Comcast right away. I'm like, hey, yeah, we're working on a system failure or whatever, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, it'll be a few, it'll be 15, 30 minutes, maybe. I'm like, what? So I'm messaging you guys, and then finally now it's back. So I've just been waiting for it to just.
Well, we tried to keep it on topic. So
yeah. Right on. So you were talking about similar issue with you guys and losing power and whatnot, right?
Yeah.
Losing power, stuff like that. And perfection, and about
we're
perfection because you got a copyright claim.
Oh, okay. Perfectionism. There's so many different areas of this.
But it really
And
looks not
we
good.
could talk for quite a while on this. I did take some notes if you guys want to here's some like science, some background on some of this
Find
stuff.
me with science.
Yeah, right. Let me go ahead and so I didn't listen to a lot of what you guys were saying because I was actually on, the phone and trying to deal with stuff. But I did do my research as I usually do. And let's go ahead and define what perfectionism is. That might be a good thing to do, right? To get started there. Hey, Burnt Relic is here as well.
I would say it's the strive, the unwavering strive for perfection.
Well, this is the way that this particular PhD scientist who was doing a talk, many talks. You'll see him all over the internet, and at the Royal Institute, I think it's called, in institution in Britain, Great Britain, where a lot of good science is coming out. Dr. Thomas Curran, and he's got a website and has written books about it. He's a PhD, and this is like one of his main things. And so the way he defines what's called multidimensional perfectionism, because there's multiple dimensions of perfectionism, right, is characterized by striving for flawlessness in combination with tendencies for overly critical self-evaluation. So like we were talking about with Janice, and I don't think we got into too much of your own experience with this, perhaps, that part of it is our perception of what the outside world or others think of us and our expectation of what their expectation of us is. So it's just like revolving kind of a cycle, right? And so he goes into this about perfectionism as it being multidimensional. You have three different kind of main ones that he talks about as these multi ones, right? There's the self-oriented, there's the socially prescribed perfectionism, and the other-oriented perfectionism. So the self-oriented is like what we're talking about with Janice, directed towards the self, exceedingly high standards in critical self-evaluation. But she was also talking about her expectation of others that weren't performing right at the level that she expected. So that goes into the other dimension of other-oriented, so directed on others, unrealistic standards, and evaluate others harshly, right? Because it's just a jam, a lot of these, they're not pros, Janice, right? They're just out there to learn and play.
A lot of them are.
Some of them are, right? And then there's the socially prescribed dimension, directed from outside, let's say like social media or projection of perfection of the body by, cosmetic, for example, or fashion, or, projection onto us from society, like what our expectation of a successful life is, and all this kind of stuff, right? So directed from outside, context overly demanding, and others evaluating harshly, right? So we get a lot of that, right? Searching for Tone knows what I'm talking about. Trolls, yes indeed, trolls. Boomster Black, what's up, dude? Yeah, it's like European vacation when they order soup. I will bring you dishwater. You would not know the difference. Exactly. Yeah, man. I do have I've had the house to myself for a week, more than a week, dude. But I've been super busy. So, and Ryan, my good buddy Ryan, was reaching out to me. Are you all right, lads? Are you sick or something? What's going on? If you hadn't been keeping up, like I've been telling everyone in whatever shows I've been able to actually do, like Thursday, I did manage to pull off the show. Or did I? Did I cancel it? God, I can't remember. I canceled it. That's why I canceled it because I had to help out my mom. Because here's the crazy thing: is my sister was the one who was actually sick. She got the flu or whatever, and she couldn't do some work that my mom was expecting her to help. She was supposed to do some work with my mom. My mom's mom does seamstress work. She's an old lady. She's in her late 70s, but she sews. I know. She's like, well, sorry, but I'm just saying she's an old lady. Janice laughs at that. She is. She's an old lady.
How old, actually?
What?
How old, actually?
Well, she's 21 years older than me, and I'm 58, so that makes her 79.
Oh, well, then she's older than me then.
Yeah, she's an older lady. She's had some heart condition issues. Like when I was at Hennings for Gear Street a couple years ago in 2022, the morning of the first that event, the very first morning, I wake up to a message from my brother John on just like a text to everyone in the family. Mom's in ICU at the hospital, and that's all we know. And I'm like, great, thanks. She had a heart attack. And I'm like, okay, thanks so much for this real, informative message, because I was waiting another 9 hours for them to wake their ass up so they could tell me what is she alive or dead or what's going on, right? Anyway,
recently.
yeah, this was 2 years ago. So, and I didn't know that day I was, on pins and needles, because I had driven from Budapest all the way to Hungary after visiting my friends Martin and Lucas in Austria for the first time.
Oh,
and I drove all the way to Germany to, like, he's outside of what's the big city that everyone flies through? Frankfurt.
Berlin. Oh.
Frankfurt's another one. Yeah, main hub. Anyway, he's Henning's about an hour out northwest of Frankfurt, in a real nice town with a castle and everything. Anyway, so he's building his own little castle there. But yeah, bottom line is, I thought I might have to fly home. I didn't know if my mom, what was going to happen. So it was really, I was freaking out that day. Different kind of stress, But yeah, the point being is, the heart attack thing, like what God, what's his name now? I keep wanting to say Gun. Oh no, not again. God.
Oh, okay, there we go.
Jeez. Anyway, the bottom line is, yeah, there, health issues, right? Like that can really affect us. But God, I don't know why I start talking about Henning. But but we were talking about heart attack thing or something, right? Weren't we?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, your mom.
I'm a little flustered. Yeah.
Your mother.
Anyway, my mom, the sewing thing. So I had to cancel Thursday because my sister was supposed to help her with some stuff, because she's been working for her part-time after work. And she couldn't because she was sick. So my mom asked me, hey, can you come over? And I'm like, okay. So I had to cancel because family first, This is like saying F. Oh my God. So yeah, back to the topic. So, so there's these different dimensions of perfectionism that he talks about, and it's interesting, right? We can go into a little bit deeper on some of these. So I think, and he does show numbers, and there are links in my description to like an hour-long talk where he describes all this stuff very, succinctly. And then we have some other videos that I put in there. And then there's this article that I was mentioning that Steve Vai, he was recently interviewed or whatever, and there's a conversation he has about, the perfection of, what would you call it? I guess it's the perfection of, I had a list here. Where'd it go?
Of tone.
Yeah, tone. Yeah, perfecting your tone. He was very self. Okay, maybe it's here. Let me look it up. Should we open that article and look at it? We can do that. Yeah. Like I had it up before, but I think it's gone now. Let's see if I could present it again. Share screen. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go open it again. And then SteveVaiGuitar.com, there it is. So we'll go right to it. And he talks quite a bit about how, even though he practiced like crazy, because, the competition is tough. That's that external, outside, perfectionism thing.
Yep.
And it's a really tough thing to deal with, and he was very self-critical. He thought he was not good enough no matter what, And Steve Vai here, right? So let's go ahead and go back to the article. Everyone's here. A lot of people here. So in this article, he talks about, I went through all these amplifiers and I could never figure out why it didn't sound good, right? That self-critical side of it. I sound like crap or whatever, Steve Vai on crafting the perfect tone. And there we go with that word, the perfect tone. The tone of the note has so many moving parts to it, right? He says in this article, it goes into, been spending the better part of your guitar journey searching for the perfect tone? Here are some tips. Okay, so now here again, we've got the external world telling us we need perfect tone. Steve Vai is going to make it the journey a little easier. Speaking in a new interview with Guitar Center, the virtuoso explains why the answer to tone lies not in the sea of shiny gear out there, but in constantly refining one's technique and listening to your own playing. So again, it goes back to it's in your fingers thing, right? People say the tone is in the amp, the tone's in the guitar, the tone's in the neck, the tone is in the body or the pickups, Vai begins. On one level, yes, there is a tone in all those things, but you're the boss of the tone because you're the one playing it and you're the one hitting the note, right? Like many players, Vai too struggled to achieve the sound he heard in his head at first. He said, I changed my picking style completely in 1983 because I was just getting tired of not having a great tone. I went through all these amplifiers. I was searching for something that sounded like some of the things I was hearing at the time. Ed Van Halen had hit the scene. You had Yngwie Malmsteen, so many players, he says. I could never figure out why I didn't sound good. The guitarist says that his breakthrough came when he stopped searching for external fixes and started fine-tuning his technique. There you go. Johnny Bean talks quite a bit about this, right, Ron?
Yeah.
And he's right. I mean, that doesn't matter how, as soon as you can have the best amp, the best whatever, and if you hit a bad note, everyone forgets about how good your tone was. Now they're all of a sudden, and now here we get into that technique perfectionism, right? Did you guys know that Steve Vai actually caused damage to his hand meditating on a note one time? He talks about it in his Alien Secrets like videos you can watch.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he says, how stupid was I? Because here it is again, that perfectionism voice in your head. And this is something I learned a lot about. Mick from That Pedal Show talks quite about this kind of stuff because he's gone through a similar journey, reading all the Power of Now and, A New Earth and all this stuff by Eckhart Tolle and others. I've read a lot of different philosophical books on philosophy and studied about philosophy and world religions and all kinds of stuff, having gone back to school to study psychology, wanting to help people deal with these issues, right? Because we have a lot of motivators in our life. A lot of things motivate our behavior and our thinking and our perception of the reality or world we're in. And we create our own. That's another thing too. You get into the quantum physics of it all, and we're creating our own realities in a way. But the bottom line is that, the thought process and the voice in our mind can get us off track, and it can take us, down directions we don't want to go. But he's talking here about, I started to experiment the way that I pick, where I pick, how I pick, the angle of all these things. Some people don't even think about it. They just do it, and they're just like, whatever. I just hold it like this and play like this. But some people actually do like what he's doing here, trying to find that tone.
Is he the guy that messed up his hand really bad?
Yeah. He says you get to the point where you hear it and you know it, and then the work starts. Your ears have to be the police of your technique. And he explains that the tone of a note has so many moving parts to it. One of them is just where you're hitting the string. There are so many parameters in creating the tone that comes off your fingers, he adds. That's why piano's so easy, you guys. Just push down the notes. But that too is not that simple because there's dynamics. There's a lot more to it, yeah.
Oh, yes.
But when you push a note down, but am I putting it like this? Am I doing like this?
Or if you hold it down, you could do wacky things one time, and then a different kind of wacky thing the next time.
Right. So there's different ways to hit the note too. So it's not quite that simple. So he says, like for the guitarist,
transition from one note to the next, you have to sometimes get completely off. And then go
that's right. That's right. There's technique to all of it.
Get muddy in the middle.
Exactly. Technique to all this stuff, right? So he goes on and says, for the guitarist, this means experimenting with things like the angle of your pick, how hard you hold the pick, and even the way you touch a note, right? Wasn't it Jeff Beck who lost the pick one time on stage and he's had to use his fingers and then he started to recognize a different kind of sound that he says, hey, that's different. And then he started to do a hybrid sort of picking where mostly he's using his fingers. I think up to, the later parts of his life, he didn't even use a pick at all. Right? Very interesting stuff. Or did he? He might
George Lynch is both, good for that.
Yeah, right. George
Lynch is he'll hold the pick to the side and play with his fingers and slide the pick. It's a hybrid type thing.
A young guy who's hot on the scene out of Britain, Chris Buck, a bluesy kind of player. That guy's constantly fiddling, not just with his pick going in and out of his palm and flipping him in and out all the time, but he's constantly on his volume knobs and stuff. He's constantly adjusting stuff as he's playing to get the tone, So he says, Vai says, one thing to experiment with if you're interested in improving your tone, just sit quietly, kind of imagine in your mind the tone you want. You can actually see yourself creating it. Yeah. And that's what I love about playing. That's the end of the article. That's what I love about playing the classical guitar, because it removes everything else. And now it's just you and the tone, you and the guitar, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it's the most played one in my house. It's the one I like the most. So
knowing how to do the transition is another thing.
Right?
I feel
Timing.
this is something crazy, because when I'm playing my drum, when I do my drum thing here, I'm getting into the pattern. I'm doing this one thing, but I want to get over there in the next minute or so, and I have to really get myself situated mentally that I'm going to be changing my body and going to that spot that I'm not really, because I've done my muscle memory here, and I got to change the muscle memory to go over to here, and you have to go. You really have to think in advance.
Right, because that's part of the performance. Because you're talking about if you're actually performing this as a live thing, whether you're doing it online or in front of people or whatever, you're performing, and you have to have things in the right place, everything in the right position. You have to be, used to that position. You have to know it's there without having to look at it. And that's the difference between like a professional who, like Johnny's always saying about our professionals, what he's trying to express in a way, what he's trying to say to everyone here is that when you're a pro, you've done it, that 5,000 hours or 10,000 hours or whatever, you've already mastered it to a point where you know exactly everything about it. And sometimes to the point where you're not even thinking about it anymore. It's not even a thought process anymore. It's more kind of like I'm just doing it. Like a lot of times he says, I can play any guitar and any, whatever, doesn't matter. Because he has a workaround automatically. He's already automated, or what would they call automatized the workaround. And professionals, when they're playing a piece and they make a mistake, they just keep going. I was telling my wife, when you keep making a mistake with Fur Elise, don't stop, keep going, because you're going to get caught in that mistake instead of the song and the music. So just keep going with it. And then I even told her, you know what? Don't even worry about making a mistake. Make mistakes on purpose. You know what? Just fool around with the notes in the song. Just start getting comfortable with what's going on there. Why this thing sounds this way with that thing over there, and start to recognize patterns and stuff. And then you'll start to absorb that instrument in a different way. You'll start to recognize it, and you'll start to understand it in a new way, and that'll help you grow, because it's not just about mimicking or copying or whatever something. You'll actually be really getting, how do you put it? Give me a word here. Like kind of getting into it, or what's you're kind of becoming one with it. One with your instrument.
That question right there from Rich is an excellent question.
Yeah, let's bring that one. Yeah. So, will the use of AI in music equal perfection? See, now this is the thing, and this is another.
I say no.
No, and why, Ron? You tell me why you say no. I say no too.
Take a Beethoven or Bach piece. There is so much emotion in these. Okay, so you have loud notes, you have soft notes, you have notes you can barely hear, you have ones that'll blow your eardrums off in the same piece of movement of music. I don't think AI who does not have emotion is going to be able to. It may be able to copy the piece already done, but will it be able to create a new piece with all the emotion? I don't think so.
See, I see what you're saying, and the way I'm going to approach it is this, and this is, I think, the crux of this whole perfectionism thing. Perfectionism is a lie. There is no perfect. So, or we could say maybe it's not a lie. Maybe it's the true thing. I've said it this way before. I've said that perfection is something that is maybe momentary. You might realize a perfect moment. You might play a perfect part, a perfect piece. Sometimes the perfect one is the one that's not perfect. Like some of the things that I was listening to some producers, Rick Beato was talking about this too, and some others, that one of the things that will drive you crazy, and you were talking about it as well earlier, about when you're producing music, is if you're going after that perfect take, the more you try to go after it, sometimes the more or less perfect it sounds.
The worse
you
it
know
gets,
why?
yeah.
Because it gets almost too technical. You're trying to find something, you're quantizing it all. You're the computer.
Quantize.
You're
Quantize.
yeah, you're quantizing it all. And like the drummer said to the producer, what did you do to my music here? Well, you ruined it. And he's like, well, I put it on the grid. It's all perfect now. And he's like, yeah, you took all the feel out, bro.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the computer can't put the feel in it, and they've been trying to do that for long, since the 80s, since they've had drum machines or any kind of computerized drumming pattern creating thing to put feel into something. And it's so random, but it's not. They try to even randomize it. It doesn't sound right because it's purposeful. When a drummer plays the parts where he's putting the feel into it, the little heavier drum beat there, a little harder hit on the hi-hat or the snare or whatever, all of that, he's in the moment. And that's like what I was talking about before we went dark with the internet here. When dark. Like Mick talks about, you got to be in the now, you got to be in the moment. And being in the moment has so much to do with, getting the enjoyment, you know what I mean? Being connected to it, like being connected to your instrument too, being all these things. You have to get to the point. Maybe Steve Vai had to go through all those steps to get to a point where he felt personally comfortable with his tone, that he's like, okay, this is it now. I'm there.
Here's an example. Let's go back to tone.
Yeah,
for
right.
Guitar.
Lars is saying easy drummer.
Let's go back to guitars for a minute, okay?
Mm-hmm.
My perfect tone to what I like is not going to be your perfect tone. And
right.
An example of that is Johnny and myself.
Mm-hmm.
His tone is great for him, but not
right.
for me.
Not for
My
you.
tone is what I want, but it's not his style. So
and that's what I was getting
for me to say, well, it's a perfect tone. Well, no, it's perfect for you, not perfect in general.
And we can talk about somebody like The Edge. He makes a perfect tone and effect and everything for each song, because he's looking for, sometimes either the effect itself will influence a sound or a song, or he'll be looking for an effect or a sound or whatnot for what he has in his mind as what will make this song work. Go ahead, Janice.
I'm going to have to go pretty soon because I really do have to go.
No worries. Yeah, we're going long today. Take off when you need to.
Just because I have to use the restroom. But
no worries.
What I want to say, because this makes me feel like when I have people come over here to play, they say, "Oh, I'll bring my pedals, I'll bring my amps." No, this is not what I want to hear. I want you to hear my sound in my room with my controls. Exactly what you're saying.
Yeah. Right. And that's the thing that is we'll get to this side of perfectionism, which I think that's what's the most interesting part about perception of what we think perfection is. So it's a subjective idea. It's an idea. Perfection, like anything, it's not a real thing. It's an idea in our mind. And everyone has their own mind. So everyone has a different mind for an idea of perfection. But being a society and a collection of humans with similar, sometimes thoughts and whatnot, we might have, a similar idea that we would call perfect, and there would be like the perfect landing, or, a 10 out of 10 for a gymnast, Nadia Comaneci back in the 70s. I don't know. Some of you people don't even know who that is. But
let me ask you
talking about somebody who got 10s after 10s after 10s because she was nailing her routine, a Romanian, nailing her routine time and time again, and she was driven to perfection. And there's some horror stories of some of the training that she had to go through because of the pressure at that time from the USSR, and it was Romania she was representing. It's a really interesting story, but when you look at some people who've always strived for perfection, and one of the things I brought up earlier in the show, sometimes you get there, you've achieved the thing everyone outside in the world is expressing as a perfect thing, and they're like, hey, you've achieved the perfection. And sometimes these people are like, now what do I do with my life? And they go into this like downward spiraling depression, because it's like, now what what do I do with the rest of my life now? What do I do? I've reached the pinnacle, and that's where I was talking before too about meditation, mindfulness, a lot of the stuff I talk about on the show that can help us deal with these things like perfectionism. And I thought I'd bring a little bit of that into the discussion here too, because there are ways when you have these, perfectionism type of characteristics to your personality or whatever you want to call it, how to deal with it. Because, we don't want to be a slave to it, right?
No.
I certainly don't want to. And so I've had to deal with these things. But let's go right back into like, what are some of these traits of perfectionism, just to like highlight, okay? So people realize from the psychological perspective of the world, understanding perfectionism, right? These are the traits. So just try to recognize these in yourself, and that way you can be aware, because awareness is step one, right?
Yep.
Hypercritical of self and others. An all or nothing perspective. Procrastination, because if you can't make it perfect, why do it, right? Then there's defensiveness. And then there's low self-esteem. That comes from the fact that you realize that, I'll never be perfect. I can't make it perfect. Then you give up. The procrastination leads to that, right? Go ahead, Janice. Okay, you got to take off. What does Quentin say? Is that what he's saying? He's dropping off the kids at the bathroom. I get you. Okay. Yeah. Quentin James, a Jamesism. A Quentin QFJ, as we call him. QFJ. Yeah. All right. Bye, Janice. Rock on. Yeah, Mark's gas station. Like, I'm a pro, right? And so it would be great to have some of you guys on, procrastinator.
Yeah, I mean, perfect.
Hey, what's happening, Jason Blue, Gear Junkie 35? Jason.
Everybody's idea of perfect is in their own. Like I said, perfect for me might not be perfect for you.
Yeah, like Boomster Black says here, my jazz tone is not the same as my chainsaw tone. Yeah, exactly. All right, everyone's saying bye to Janice. So there are ways to deal with this issue, if you want to call it, right? And we went into a little bit of what are the different types of perfectionism. There's the perfectionism of self-oriented, demanding perfection of yourself, to put it bluntly. Socially prescribed, which is belief that others are judging you, all right? And then the other-oriented, which is hypercritical of others around you, like what Janice was talking about. She's going to a jam, and she's being hypercritical of the other people not being on it, and instead of just enjoying the moment, and I've had to deal with this myself too a couple times. When I was jamming out with some other people, I was like, so what, Laz? It's not going to be a perfect thing. So just enjoy it and do the best you can for the others there to enjoy it, and be that guy. Be that guy that's making them feel. Because there were like singers and other people's at that like Gallagher's thing I did last year. We're going to do another one this year, where they were really self-conscious, and scared. And so there were guys like me and others that were just trying to be reassuring. Hey, man, don't worry, it's going to be all right. Everyone messes up a little bit. Just keep going. Don't stop. You sound great. You're doing great. Just go at it. This is supposed to be fun. This is called playing music. Play. Being a big
Very
part
true.
of what I think is very, very important about music, and what I love about music as a form of therapy and everything else too. It's the side of music that can help you let go all those anxieties. So as a musician, you don't want those anxieties to rule you. And I'll give you guys a little personal experience recently, so how this can haunt you or whatever you want to call it. I personally, the perfectionism got to me a little bit too, because I was performing at my sister-in-law's father's memorial service, right? And for weeks, she gave me a long list. It was a pretty good list of like classical pieces that her dad's favorites, and she told me, don't worry about, if you can do them all or whatever, just whatever. But, the Ave Maria is the most important one, And then I said, well, which one? Because there's a Schubert one and there's Ave Maria by Bach, and which one do you want? And she says, I think the Bach one. So I was looking for sheet music for it because I needed to learn it. I was looking online too. YouTube always has versions. People are playing it. And it's hard to try to mimic that and learn it that way. I don't like to do it that way. I'd rather have the sheet music in front of me and just chunk it. And chunking is a good way to learn any kind of music. You guys know what I'm talking about with chunking, right? You learn one chunk.
I'll be right back.
Go ahead. You learn one chunk, you learn it, and then you do another chunk, and then you learn that. I'll pull them out. And so what you do is don't try to make it perfect all the way through. Do the first part, then the second part, then the third part, then the fourth part. And then as you're adding those parts on, then play through them. That's kind of how I do it. So, and I try to master each chunk before I get to the next chunk. So, or part, right? And usually I'll transition between certain parts that are an obvious transition to the next part of the piece or whatever. Sometimes it's a change in chords or keys or whatever. So I was learning this classical piece by Bach, and it's not that super difficult, but then it does have, like, in the kind of 2/3 of the way through, there's some difficult parts where you're having to move your hands around quite a bit, to get it just right. And there were easy versions, and I didn't like them. They didn't sound as good. So there's the perfectionist in me saying, nah, Laz, you got to learn this more advanced version, And so I was after it, and I was getting it. And about into the last week, middle of the last week before the event, I had it pretty much nailed. And so I was feeling pretty confident about it. So to the point where almost every time I sat down, I could play without a mistake, right? Then the night or the morning, if you want to call it that, of the event, I have to wake up at 2:00 in the morning so I can take my wife to the airport to make it to Peru to visit her mom for her birthday, and her plane's taken off. She's got to be at the airport by 4. So we got up around 2:30, and so I got 3 hours of sleep or something at best, right? And so, man, I knew I'd be tired because when I got back home, it was around 6 a.m., 5:30 a.m. or so, and I tried to go back to sleep, and I had to get ready to pack. I had everything ready already the day before, so I didn't have to worry about, I just had to put it in the car, all the stuff I was taking with me. But when I wanted to practice a little bit before I go there, right, on my piano here at home, and I kept messing up at that difficult part. And I'm like, God, and I was like, oh shit, and I was starting to get self-esteem problem there with being able to play this piece, right? And so I says, you know what, Laz, just stop, just relax, whether you can play it or not, get there, set up, get everything ready to go. And I was playing it on a piano over there, a different setup, but I also had to set up a CD player and some other gear for other music that they wanted me to play off CD, which normally nowadays nobody ever does. But the priest had some music he wanted me to play during the I guess it was kind of like a mass, but it wasn't like a real mass, but kind of like, it's a memorial service. And so it wasn't at his church, so he brought CDs, and I had to set all this stuff up. And people kept saying, "Can I help you?" No, I got it, because no one else could. If they get involved, it's more distracting sometimes trying to help me with. I had people carry stuff from the car, but that was it. And bottom line is, got everything set up about 15 minutes before the event was going to be starting. People were already starting to file in, and I needed to sit down and start playing, because originally I would be playing 30 minutes of these classical pieces, and then in the middle of the service, I have to play the Ave Maria. So before I, was going to do that, I didn't have a chance to play that one more time or practice it one more time on that piano before I knew I would have to play it during the Ave Maria. So I talked to the priest and I says, look, do you have the Ave Maria just in case as a plan B on the CD, because he was going to play it off the CD, but I was going to play it live. And I noticed that the one he had said Schubert. And I'm like, oh, you have the Schubert version? He's like, yeah, the Schubert version. And I'm like, Victoria had me do the Bach version. So now I'm really self-conscious, because I'm like, oh, shit. Now, not only am I worried about, am I going to be able to play it through, without a mistake during the mass or the service, but I've got the wrong version, because the one that he has a CD of is this Schubert version. I'm like, oh man, So in the way the church is, I think the Bach version would have been fine. He said, that's fine, Laszlo. He's like, Laszlo, don't worry. Whatever you want to do, just don't worry about it. You could play the one that's on the CD. It doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. So if you feel confident to play. If not, that's fine. So, I'm doing all the other stuff, queuing all the CD music for when they're doing different things. And it comes time for, the version. And my name is on the program as playing the song. I just couldn't do it. I pulled out because I just did not feel confident. And a lot of it had to do with the very fact that I was tired, and before the mass or the service started, I was playing for a good 15-20 minutes or so of all these other pieces. And the last one that they asked me to play before the actual service starts is the song that I wrote for my daughter Hannah. I call it Hannah's Lullaby, right? I'll bring Ron back. I think he's back. And so I couldn't play it for some reason. That I was playing like parts of it, but for some reason it wasn't coming to my mind. And it wasn't like I was nervous or scared or anything. I didn't have any butterflies, nothing like that. It was like brain fog, because I had 2 hours, maybe 3 hours of sleep, and then maybe another hour or something in the morning. I kind of half slept, or whatever you want to call it, half slept. Anyway, so I just said, you know what? I just don't want to mess it up. Not for my sister-in-law's dad's service. I don't want to, like, in the middle of the service, not be able to play it through all the way. So even though I'd spent weeks playing and practicing that piece and nailing it and getting it down. Hey, Brian, what's up? And then James G, what's up? And then learning all these other pieces too. But those ones I was kind of just improvising, kind of, variations of them, my own kind of versions. This one I was trying to nail note for note. And so I pulled out because that perfectionist side of me or whatever, I didn't want to blow it for my sister-in-laws. And I remember when I didn't walk to the piano when the father, and I started the music on the CD, and they looked over, my brother John and my sister-in-law looked over at me, and I'm like, because I'm like, I couldn't. I even told them beforehand, I'm not sure if I'm going to play it because I'm half asleep here. And I was pretty wiped. By the end of that day, I took my mom home because she came with them. I was tired, and she had me drive her to some place nearby to pick up some fabrics or something. As a long story short, she's a seamstress and she needed some zippers, and there's a place nearby because Joann's is shutting down. All the Joann stores where she used to buy this stuff nearby were all shutting down. So I drove her by to a place that was nearby where the services were, and got her zippers and then took her home. But I was, by the time I got home, I got home and I just like took a nap, and I didn't wake up till like 9 p.m. It was crazy. So these things will happen, you guys, and I was okay with it. My next day we got together as well. We went to another service that was at the Catholic Mass, over there. I played a little bit of it, bottom line is later that day at my brother's, bottom line is that sometimes you also have to have a plan B, and sometimes you also have to realize it's okay if you can't be perfect, or if you can't play it, or you have to make a decision. That's another pro tip, if you want to call it a pro tip, is that you have to know what you can pull off and what you can't, and in certain situations you can go for it, but in a situation like that I didn't feel like it was appropriate, and I said, I'm not gonna do this. I'm gonna, I'll let it go. And I'm not one of those guys that beats up on himself about this stuff. I'm totally good about it, because that's one of the things about having a lot of the self studies, introflexion, or whatever you want to, self-reflection, that kind of stuff, like what Mick, I was talking about that pedal show, Mick, he's dealt with quite a bit in his life too. And yeah, and plan C, just in case. Right. Oh, you're absolutely right. Because you want to be prepared when you're in that professional situation. But man, I've heard so many stories, right, Ron? You probably know, having been out on the road and played, how many times things that are planned just barely get off.
Yeah, don't go right.
Sometimes they don't go right, or sometimes it's like, man, barely just that, down to the wire. Is it going to work out or not? And you just go for it. So I'm a go for it kind of guy for the most part. But in some situations like that, I didn't feel like it was appropriate to just flub it or go for it or do your best. I felt like if I was going to play that piece for her and for her dad, I wanted it to be perfect. And so I pulled out, So yeah, it can be a detrimental thing. So I wonder how well I would have done it, and and if it would have been good enough, But I've let it go, and that's another thing that you gotta. One way to deal with perfectionism is just letting it go, and realizing sometimes that the one that you think sucks and is where you made mistakes on is the one everyone else loves the most, because it's so much more human. So getting back to the previous comment about will AI make music perfect? Well, maybe the perfect music isn't really what we want. Right?
Very true.
Yeah. So let's see what else is happening in the chat. You have something to add?
No, you pretty much covered it. And Janice and I carried it while you were gone. So
yeah, thank you guys. I'll have to listen back to that. Oh my God, yeah. Okay, very cool, you guys. Yeah, you guys are. Hope your mom's all right, Ryan. Yeah. Hey, Camellia. Saying hi to Ryan. Everyone's saying hi to each other. Magic Man, you're probably here already, right? Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, let me go back into like dealing with this kind of stuff a little bit. So here's some perfectionism versus striving for excellence notes. Okay, perfectionism, and there's a difference, right? That's one way to kind of maybe conceptualize or think about these things in a different light. Okay, instead of going after perfection, how about striving for excellence? All right, there's a different connotation there, right? So perfectionism, rooted in the fear of failure, of making mistakes, versus focused on growth and improvement. Perfectionism sets unrealistic and unattainable goals versus set high but achievable standards. Perfectionism, again, driven by the need for external validation versus viewing failure as a learning opportunity, right? So I'm in that striving for excellence camp. What do you guys say? And then there are a few more things here. Here are some signs of perfectionism. Again, we talked a little about this, to recognize, recognition of a problem is very important when it comes to knowing it's a problem, and then, you can deal with it. So if you recognize any of these in yourself, be aware. Look for ways to deal with it, like in that previous short list. But here are some signs of perfectionism: having high standards and expectations, feeling pressured to live up to a high expectation, exaggerated negative reactions to mistakes. In other words, really negative reaction, like, oh, I'm an idiot, kind of, that kind of stuff, right? Exaggerated fears of failure, right? High, and by the way, in my experience on that day, I didn't, it wasn't a fear-based thing. It was just me realizing the situation, and it wasn't like I said, I wasn't fearful. It was like I knew I couldn't. I just knew I couldn't even play my daughter's song, which I wrote, so I knew this something was not my might have been partially subconscious too, but there was definitely a factor of just being tired, and probably wouldn't have mattered how well prepared I was for that. I probably couldn't have pulled it off. Higher levels of self-doubt and insecurity, personalization of mistakes as failure, excessive ruminating or self-criticism, right? And rigid black or white thinking patterns. That's either, right or wrong, or good or not, I think we know someone who has a little of that. And then self-worth or self-esteem, that's a contingent upon success. And success, again, another one of those, we're hearing that a lot these days, and there's a lot of pressure on people. And so one of the things that guy who I brought up earlier, the one that the Dr. Thomas Curran was speaking about, is how since COVID, especially, we've seen a lot more stress and anxiety. There's a lot more reason for trying to attain perfection, because you have AI again now, like a competitive, beast out there that we're worried about taking our jobs and everything else because it's going to be more perfect than us, kind of
Sarah
stuff.
Connor.
Yeah, right. Perfection, you can't beat perfection. Anyway, so there's that issue, but then at the same time, there's been a rise, and it's pretty sharp rise in anxiety and depression and all these things, and a lot of it does relate to perfectionism that is being projected upon us by social media. And what I mean upon us by social media is that we're all part of it. We're all doing it to each other in a way, and that's why it's exponentially rising. And so you're seeing levels where usually it was like a kind of up and dipping down like that. Now it's going like this, since 2008, really. Since really the early 2000s, but really from 2008 on, they really see a more sharp incline. And that has a lot to do with probably anxiety and depression that occurred during the recessionary kind of period, but also in the use of social media and people on social media, and how the job market has changed since 08 too. People feel less secure, and so they're always trying to get a leg up, or there's more gig working and stuff going on. The cost of living is continually risen, whereas our pay hasn't. And now you're seeing a lot of other cutbacks we're worried about.
You're lagging.
Yeah, right. Am I lagging, or is it like
Yeah, it's you.
Oh, is it?
Yep.
What's happening?
You were freezing, going.
Oh, wow. I didn't notice it here. Let me know in the chat if you guys notice it. But maybe Ron's internet is getting messed up. It's cool.
You're frozen in. Your
My
picture is, yeah.
Wow. That's on my side. Well, now I just saw the doom scroll pop up for a second. But yeah, there must be still working on it. But yeah, Peggy says something nice here, so interesting. I still don't see how AI can be as good as someone doing it live, right?
AI can copy it,
right?
AI can copy it exactly.
I'm frozen,
but I don't think it can come up with and make it
right. Well, now here's again.
Feeling.
This is the same argument that I think we have when it comes to digital simulated gear versus the real thing. And there was a very interesting thing I read about, and I talked about it last time on the show, that Daniel Levitin talks about in his book about music and our mind and why we're so obsessed with music. And it has to do with the feeling in your body that you get when you're at a live event at a certain decibel. Like I think my buddy just showed up. Brent is here. At a certain decibel level, it has an effect on your body that overwhelms your sensory, perception abilities. Like it overwhelms you in a way, and then it creates this different kind of feeling. All of a sudden, you're in this different, kind of feeling sense. You're not in just listening sense. There's like a different feeling sense. So that's kind of like what people say about rock concerts and going to a live show and how it feels to be there, or like at a movie theater, in the theater when you're live there. Check it out. There he is. Brent is here. You want some
magic man?
All right. If you're gonna go on for a minute, I mean,
I'm pretty much over. But
what's up, everybody?
There's Brent. Magic man is here. So the bottom line is that the perfectionism thing, it is a mind. It's an idea. It's a thing created by our mind. It's a thought. It's not necessarily a real thing, but maybe it is to you in some ways, right? So it's a subjective thing, and that's, I think, the most important takeaway from this, and one way to maybe help those who suffer by it, right? Get over it. So here are some ways to cope with perfectionism and anxiety. Identify your tendencies, right? I did that with my event. I identified my tendencies and I knew what I was capable of. It says be imperfect on purpose sometimes. Now this is a good one. Be imperfect on purpose. People say this about Jimmy Page's playing. He's sloppy. How is he so sloppily perfect every time? He's perfect sloppy every time. If he was really sloppy, he would sound sloppy all over where it didn't make sense, whereas he plays on purpose sloppy, kind of, because that's a feel he's going for, you guys, right? It's be imperfect on purpose, right? Set small goals, little chunks at a time. I'm doing that with the studio build. It's like, yeah, it's not there yet. It'll get there. It's not my profession. I'm not going to put my whole life into this because I have to eat. And I admire those who go for it full on. And I did that once in the 90s. I put everything into the studio I built in the 90s and it didn't work out. And that's okay. I learned a lot from that process, and it was a great experience. So again, another way to deal with it is like, there's no failure. It's a learning experience, right? Practice unconditional self-compassion. So give yourself a pat on the back once in a while for doing good. I actually did really well at that event, all else considered. There was no mistakes with the CD player. and
no
what
scratches,
I played
no
for,
skips.
And what I played for about 20 minutes or so, 30 almost 25 minutes of playing beforehand, everyone was complimenting me on how beautiful that sounded, Practice mindfulness. Okay. If you don't know what mindfulness is, look it up, read an Eckhart Tolle book or do a little, study on meditation. That's another one. Practice meditation. And then let go of control, right? Some people want to control everything. They think that having control over everything is going to make it better. It doesn't. Not really. And then replace these negative thoughts. Replace them with the positive one, like the one before. We had the what are the different ways to deal with it, right? Instead of set unrealistic, unattainable goals, set high but achievable standards. Instead of being driven by the need for external validation, view failure as a learning opportunity, right? There's all these kinds of ways that you can replace it with something else, with an and. That's another one that I thought was really good. Throw the I'm going to do this and be perfect at it and realize that if I don't, then blah, 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 right? Be realistic. Okay? So understand, like in Janice's situation with the jam that she went to, be realistic, It's a jam, It's not like, it's not that important. And then limit your social media use. Big thing. I've been trying to get on my sweetie about this because she way too much. And I noticed that she's getting affected in her sleep and other things. And I keep telling her, honey, this has a lot to do with your use of doom scrolling. And go ahead.
Speaking of her sleep, did the John Barry Somewhere in Time album help?
I don't know, because she's been in Peru. I don't know if she's been listening to that stuff, but I'll get her on it when she's here. I did put like musical stuff on with her for sleep, and it did help,
Okay.
So, but she doesn't always remember to do it or whatever, So not only be realistic, but limit your social media use, but seek professional help if if you're really having anxiety and depression. Not that they're the best forms of psychoanalysis and or psychotherapy or psychology or therapy or whatever, but there are online sources where you can talk to someone, and that can help you quite a bit. And Johnny says, who wants a hot dog from Costco? Apparently Johnny does. They're only $1.50, right? I think $1 or $1.50
with the soda.
With the soda. Yeah, I even forgot about one time I went there and you get a soda with it, and I paid for it. I didn't know that you got it with it, and I'm like, can I get my money back for the soda I paid for since it's coming with the hot dog? Anyway, yeah, I think James G's answer is no. He's got the puke emoji there. Yeah, I noticed there's someone behind here playing, right? So why don't we let this guy play us out? What do you think, Ron? Anything else somebody wants to add in the chat? Hopefully you guys learned something from this. Check out the links there. They're very good. I listened to, and I only put 4 up. I didn't want to put a bunch again. Just try to limit like how much, because I do a lot of study on this stuff and there's a lot more. Just look up perfectionism as a musician or perfectionism in the music industry, and if you feel that it's getting in your way, like Mick has at that pedal show has realized, hey, and it's helped him a lot with his anxiety, especially playing live. He's still a perfectionist about his tone and things like that, but he also knows how and when to let go on certain things, because sometimes if you can't be in the moment, here's a really good story. I think you were there, Brent, when we saw Larry Mitchell with Andy Timmons and the amp wasn't working.
Yeah.
And what did Larry do? He just kept playing. He kept smiling like he always does. And he handed his guitar mid-song or part song over. They switched cables. That's right. They switched cables. At one point, didn't he try to hand it to him? Yeah. And they just switched cables because the amp that Andy Timmons was going to be playing on wasn't working for some reason. And they just kept playing, because he knew that he was there to make people happy and smile and feel good and put on a show. And he knew that's all he had to do. Just keep going. And it, that was the thing. It happened, but it was amazing anyway, right? So that just goes to show you, it doesn't have to be perfect, man. Sometimes being in the moment and letting the moment carry you and going with it, you got to just do that, right? So yeah, thank you very much, Peggy. Thank you, Boomster Black, for coming. You rock, dude. Send the sword, whatever you want, whenever you can. If you need help with the shipping, let me know. I'll send you a shipping tag. Just box it up and give me the weight and size, and that's all I need to know. And then what do we got here? We've got, I guess next Thursday we're gonna do the this thing. Where is it? The Tonex.
Oh, the one.
The Tonex 1. It's hiding here somewhere. It's probably over there. But next week on Thursday night, we're gonna dig deep into the Tonex 1 and some of those cool uses of that thing. It's a simulator thing, right? But it does a good enough job. It's not perfect, but it's good enough, right? For some things.
2 words that never should go together. Good enough.
Good enough, right? See, be aware, Ron. Awareness, your perfectionism.
I know.
But it's all good, man. So we'll see you guys on Johnny's show. You guys doing anything today? Is he doing something today?
He may be. I don't know.
He might do something, right? He was at that conference, that Comic-Con kind of a conference thing. Where they had a lot of cool Star Wars stuff, and I wish he would have checked that Satriani thing, because I don't know what's happened with that. I don't know if it's still ongoing or not. But I haven't seen an email from them in a while. I have the first 3 issues of that comic, the Time Shredder comic. But yeah, man. Until next time, you guys, thanks for coming. Thank you, everyone, for all your support, by the way. All the people who have been supporting so far, I really, really appreciate you guys. I got to make a new list that has, the names of those. And I do have to come through with the promised perks for you guys. So like I put here, join as a member for perks. I'm going to be posting up some special videos, some stuff that, no one else is going to see. If you're a member, you get to see. And then merch. I'm going to be working on merch too, because I do want to do a merch kind of thing, like, MTL for Music Therapy Labs, like Lance, guitar, China Guitar Skeptic, Mike, as you guys know him, Lance. His name is the same as mine, by the way. Laszlo in Hungarian is Laszlo, and English is Lancelot or Lance. So we had the same name. It's kind of funny. But he used to always call me MTL for short, Music Therapy Labs. So I might do a hat or something that says MTL, which is also like metal, which is something I love. So that'll be fun, and some other kind of things. I got to work on the logo stuff and all that and put that stuff together for you guys. So until next time, Thursday night, see you in the chats on other people's shows. And
Everybody
Ron, thank you for hosting. Thank
What's
you,
left of it.
Janice, for co-hosting as well, and Johnny for popping in, and Brent for showing up and helping me here today. It's going to be awesome. Until next time, you guys.
Everybody have a great
rest
day.
of your Sunday. Rock on, and
thanks.